Take two. Here we go. All right. Should be working now. I presume that people can hear me. Second time is indeed the charm. I literally had to restart my entire computer. I've never had that issue with OBS before. I don't know what caused it because I tested it earlier and it was working. But whatever. We're here now. Let's pretend that didn't happen. I'm saving the old live stream though, for posterity's sake, I suppose. Let me just let people filter in. I just need to set some stuff up because I had stuff set up and then I had to restart my whole vibe and that threw me off a little bit. So, right, I need to paste this link a couple different places. Bear with me a second. Let people filter in and stuff as well. Let me just let people filter in. I just need to set some stuff. Not sure why the chat's not working, but we'll get it. And thank you all for your congratulations, by the way. Really greatly appreciated. Yes, TT up. I see real big ups from Trinidad in the last chat, so thank you. Thank you very much. Where else to paste this link, boy? Gonna put this up in the Discord. And I'm gonna put this up in the Twitter. That, by the way, I am coming off of. I've actually only logged in today to announce this stuff. But I am planning on coming off of Twitter. Well, I have come off of Twitter. Let's just... Okay, I think I've done everything that I intended to do. I think the headache is done. The headache has passed. It is over. So let's jump in. Let me check up the chat. Big up to the 868 for real. Shout out to Brazil as well. I love Brazil. I need to go to Brazil at some point. Shout out to Colombia. Shout out to the entire Latin American region. The Discord is not Patreon exclusive. It's just that it's like a process to getting people into the Discord. And so I don't make a big boom publicization of it because that'll lead to a big influx of people. But there are places where I've shared it and it's like it's open. I'll probably share it again sometime soon. But yeah, it's just really, I didn't make a big announcement about it because whenever I do, it's kind of whoosh. It's like a big it's like a big wave of people. Also, you're gonna hear throughout the course of this live stream, the common house gecko. They're starting to irritate me a little bit, but we move, this they're really starting to irritate me a little bit. Because like last night, it was about three of them just going at it, either fighting or the other F, and so it was really it gets annoying after some time. You're trying to just chill and you're just hearing this. It's quite annoying. That is not a bird. I don't have any birds. I actually used to be afraid of birds. It is indeed a house gecko. I can't remember. They're pretty common throughout the tropics. I think they're. I was reading a Wikipedia article about them recently. I don't know if I could pull it up now. But yeah. They're starting to irritate me. I mean, I think that there's at least three of them. And I think I saw a baby the other day, so I think they're getting real comfortable. I don't mind them outside the window, and for a while I didn't mind them inside because, it's just like, oh well, they're eating the bugs, they're eating whatever, so I don't have to be, bothered. I could sleep easy, but you can't be clacking so late in the night, people trying to sleep, and you're making a set of noise. Just please, please. Which fish is best? I don't have a favorite fish. I like sushi. So I like whatever fish I could get with sushi, but I really don't like fish as a concept. To me, it's just frustrating to eat. Similarly, crab is frustrating to eat, so I don't really eat crab. It's like you're making me work too hard for my food, dog. Like, let me just eat in peace. And plus, if the taste isn't all that amazing anyway. I mean, some of them, they're pretty good, like salmon and that kind of thing, but I could. It's tamarind. Tamarind bowl, tamarind sauce. Who says tamarind? It's tamarind. To me, it's tamarind. I don't know. That's kind of in between the two spellings you put there, yeehaw, but it's tamarind to me. Garden plants, I think, are underappreciated. I don't know. I don't know. Right now, I am growing. So I have a mango tree. Well, that's been there for a while. We have a soursop tree, silk fig. Just recently got some suckers for planting, so I have planting growing. Should be getting them soon. Small leaf thyme, big leaf thyme. I had like a really huge, ginormous, massive pigeon peas plant. Got a nice big harvest from that, and then I cut it down because it got really big. And now now it's bouncing back from that stump. So, solid. And I also have tomatoes and pimentos and chive and red beans and y'all would call it eggplant, and we don't call it eggplant. We would call it baigan, but yeah, those are my main plants. I also have some citruses and also a five finger, aka star fruit. How much is the delay? I've never timed it, but it's a good couple of seconds. I think at least 10 seconds, if not more. Thanks for all the congrats. Bro, that was a parrot. Yeah, I have the gecko lizard in my house. Thoughts on Especifismo? I've done a video on Especifismo, I think. Did I do a video on Especifismo? I feel like I most definitely did. I distinctly recall doing a video on Especifismo. If I didn't do a video on it, I definitely covered it on the It Could Happen Here podcast, which I host on occasion. But I feel like I would have touched on Especifismo in the on the channel as well. Let me see if I can find it. Especifismo. Right, yes, I do. I do have a video on it. It's 8 minutes long, published April of last year. So nearly an entire year ago, I did a video on Especifismo. Um, so shout out to that video. Y'all don't have house geckos in the US. That's interesting. Have I seen it? Oh, unfortunately, I have. I've seen them doing all kinds of things. They leave their poop on my desk sometimes, on my window sills. Yeah, I've seen them. The geckos, that is. Yo, look, Bahamas do have lizards, but it's not lizards, geckos, but I'm sure. We definitely have it. At least in the Antilles, I'm sure we would have it. You look at you Lucayan Peninsula, not Lucayan Peninsula, Lucayan Archipelago people. I don't know what's going on with you. They come in and out as they please. Yes, they do, because otherwise, I mean, there aren't any like cracks, like in the wall. Like they're just coming through the window, and I mean, I'm not gonna close my window all the time. I like fresh air. What do you think about domesticated grass in yards? Do I prefer moss? Eh. I mean, the plants we grow for food are, to an extent, domesticated. I don't have a problem with domesticated grass because, you know, you want some place where you could play football, right? Um, and you want somewhere you could run around. Me personally, I touch grass. I go outside. I play, you know? Um, so I like grass to play on. I prefer that to whatever pickers as we growing out to the ground. Um, and moss is kind of slippery. So I used to be a power washer, so I can answer some questions. Fireball like shark. I'm not surprised. It is mostly catfish. Entertainment and sports in an anarchist society. That'd be pretty cool. Thoughts on the Cooperation Jackson group? I'm not up to date on what they've been doing lately. Are you a vegan? What do you think of anarcho-veganism? I'm not a vegan. And I know it's morally wrong. But I'm functionally a vegan. I would say about 90 to 95% of my, well, not vegan, probably vegetarian. 90 to 95% of my diet is like just plants and various types of plants. Would ideal society work on the political and economic spectrum? I mean, that's what my entire channel is dedicated towards, right? Obviously, curry chicken. Why would it be chicken curry? I'm not Guyanese. I don't care. I don't care if y'all pronounce it tamarind or tamarind, right? It's not that big of a deal to me. Grapefruit seeds, you can't really, that's the thing, you can't really grow, at least to my knowledge, you can't grow fruit trees from seed. You have to grow them from like a pre-existing plant. You have to get like a cutting from like an already barren tree and graft it on, because otherwise you're gonna get something that's not really edible. Face reveal anytime soon? No. Have I played Night in the Woods? No. Speak about Marx. I like Marx's beard. I think he was a pretty chill guy. Obviously, like everyone else, he was flawed. I think it would be kind of cool to talk to him, even though I don't speak German. And I pray every day for his second coming. Supplemental reading suggestions for the Grundries? No. But I do have a reading suggestion. You should read Washington Black by Essie Adukian. It's really good. You should also read 12 Tribes of Hati. Can't remember the author's name right now. I don't have the book on hand. But also very good. Thoughts on Libertarian Municipalism? It's cool. What do you think of Mao Zedong? I mean, I'm an anarchist. Yeah, I think that probably answers it. Thoughts on historical and dialectical materialism? I think they're one way of view. I think they are one way of viewing the world. What if suddenly all humans or plants on our planet were replaced by cactus? Well, in that case, me personally, I don't know, what kind of cactus would I be? There has to be like a personality test for that, right? I could be basic and say I'll be the saguaro cactus, but that's kind of boring, right? I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Could the West Indies Federation be revived under socialism? So put a pin in that, and I will be talking about that just now in this live stream. Any ideas on integrating AI into Solarpunk? Not really. My focus, my whole, I think my issue that I'm starting to have with, and no shade to anybody, like, at all. It's just like a passive observation. I feel like people, place a lot of emphasis on the technology side of Solarpunk, and me personally, I could care less. Well, no. I could not care less. Actually, I think I'm somewhere in the spectrum of caring and not caring. I probably could care less. I do care somewhat, but it's not an emphasis for me. Technology in Solarpunk is not an emphasis for me. My emphasis is really on, connection between people and our community and how that operates. So I don't really have any ideas on integrating AI into Solarpunk, because before we talk about integrating, artificial intelligence into Solarpunk, let's get some emotional intelligence into Solarpunk. Am I right or am I right? Yeah. I'm gonna try and catch up real quick, so I'm gonna rush through. Thoughts on the BDSM King community? None of my business. Thank you for publishing the Solarpunk video. I work in urban planning and forwarded to a colleague of mine. I'm glad to hear that. Native plants, my area that I know of, most people don't, and people totally should. Ooh, that's a tough one, because a lot of the plants that have established themselves here are not actually native. So I have to think hard about that one. At this point, I really couldn't tell you. Mentioned a few times, organizer, have been specific. I'm curious. So I've been kind of on and off when it comes to organizing, and I do intend to make a video about like common pitfalls in organizing that I've learned in my experience. At the moment, I am in talks with some people. I'm not gonna give any details because that would be extremely ill-advised. Um, but yeah, I'll keep it as general as possible. Working on stuff. Um, Where's IRL far behind? Um, blah 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 blah. I'm gonna have to skip ahead. So if any questions were pressing, I had to jump forward. Thank you for the kind words on the yellow and black aesthetic. Opinion on corn. I actually don't like the taste of corn. I do eat popcorn and I do like corn pie, which is a food endemic to Trinidad. I think the Caribbean, but I actually don't like corn. Can't stand it. Well, I like cornbread as well, but I don't like corn. Like I picked the corn out of corn soup. Blah, blah, blah. Have I seen a documentary No Gods Masters History of Anarchism? Nope. Collab with Has never. Oh, Mark spoke fluent English. I didn't know that about him. Learn something new every day. If I know about the Pan Africans at Independence Square, I do. Quote unquote Pan Africans is indeed right. Fireball, you should message me. We'll talk about that just now. Um, Part of the reason that I'm never gonna do a face reveal, aside from the fact that you know, basic OPSEC, and the fact that I like living a private life, is also because yeah, people can be extremely weird about people's faces, and I would rather not be. I would rather not have my face plastered on like those right wing compilations and stuff. Advice for debating liberals: don't talk to them like people. Um, can I repeat the books I recommended? Yes. Washington Black by Essie Edugyan and 12 Tribes of Hatti by, I can't remember her name right now. Both books, extremely awesome contemporary black historical fiction. You're welcome. My opinion on the New Jewel movement. Put an opinion on that. We'll talk about that just now. Do you wake up and practice speaking slowly? Do you naturally sound like you half asleep? The world wants to know. Well, that should be my response to that should be obvious, right? The fact that I trip over my words constantly should tell you that I tend to try and slow down when I'm enunciating and trying to, deliver my scripts, and also, have an accent, and also, well, everybody has an accent, right? But it's an accent most people aren't familiar with, so, yeah. So I keep things at a steady pace. I make sure to take my time, and that's about it. I don't like tripping over my words because it kind of wastes time. Ayana made this right. That is the author of 12 Tribes of Hatti. One horse-sized goose or 10 toddler-sized geese. Oh, one horse-sized goose, easily. I could outrun that. Favorite tree? The tree I'm sitting down underneath. I don't really do videos on political figures, hence why I've never done a video on. Like, the only video I've done about political figures has really been my one on black anarchism, because that was needed. But I'm not gonna do like a Proudhon video or a Bakunin video or a Malatesta video. Like, that's not my thing. Thoughts on meditation. Very cool. active anarchist organizations in the Caribbean. Not that I know of. There are anarchic-leaning, libertarian, municipalist-leaning organizations of various varieties. There are people who lead in that direction who may not be familiar with the ideology of anarchism, but will align with a lot of the core principles and tenets of anarchism without knowing it. And so, yeah, you work with who you work with. That's what I'm talking about in my leftist disunity video, which you could also check out. Opinions on astronomy. I'm looking outside my window and I'm looking at Venus. Like, isn't that amazing? I am watching Venus right in Shiai right now. Anyway. Okay, seriously, I do need to skip forward. Have I attended uni/college? Yes. And I did a bachelor's in mass communication. My Black Libertarian Socialist literature recommendations are in my Black Anarchism video. I have a very passing familiarity with the plurality community. My Discord is set up with PluralKit for people of that inclination. But I haven't done any in-depth research on it. Does Murray Bookchin have a point separating polities from states? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. Because while it's easy to sort of slot things into these really rigid categories, I think polities is a bit more flexible in its use when applied to human history as a whole, right? Because it's kind of same with why I try to avoid the term civilization, because the word is heavy, it's fraught with baggage, and it's kind of difficult to describe and get into nitty gritties when you use that kind of terminology, or really to be accurate when using that terminology. So I think polity is a bit more flexible to describe different state and non-state arrangements. Opinions on cricket. I've tried to get into it. I am not. You've never had cornbread? You should have some. You can get it at any parlor. I am Trinidadian. Corn has an extremely unpleasant texture. For those asking about Marxism-Leninism, just watch my video on leftist disunity. I do think more people should be talking about degrowth. Have I read Ho Chi Minh? Nope. Pablo the Sower, I have read it. Really amazing series. I wish it was finished, but unfortunately not. I was told about the Second Thought shout out. Somebody mentioned, I think. So, thanks for that. I've never been in contact with him, though. Opinion on Chomsky. I know he was a lot of people's introduction to anarchism. I don't think he's a good introduction to anarchism. And, yeah. He was never my introduction to anarchism. Thoughts on space exploration? Maybe. Opinion on Chomsky. I should probably go into more in depth. I'm still trying to catch up, but whatever. I'll get there eventually. Yeah, so space exploration, I think, is an ethical dilemma more than anything. But will there ever be a right time to do it is the question, right? So I'm not sure. I should cover more Trinidadian history, and I intend to. um I had like a whole, like in my recent video on decolonization, which very few people watched, at least in comparison to my other videos, which I don't mind, because views is not the focus for me. It's really delivering the information so that I would understand my own information better. That's why I started making videos in the first place, because I wanted to distill what I was learning into like a neat package. And so now that I do have it in a nice neat package, I could always rewatch my stuff to remember, you know. But in my video on decolonization, my most recent one, I had like a whole long section of, well, not that particularly long. I think it was like a page or two long, just discussing symbolic decolonization in a Trinidadian context. But I already knew, but that particular digression was, would have extended the length of that particular section of decolonization video. And so instead I ended up putting it as text on the screen. But yeah, it is something that I do want to talk more about. It's just I have to balance. I want to make sure to balance international, local, and regional. If I have any books planned, oh yeah, and also when I talk slow, people can always speed it up on YouTube, so it's not that big of a deal. Because if I speed up, that'll be kind of irritating. The hardest video to make? Ooh, that is a good question. not to say, not to say other people's questions weren't good, huh? Um, but that is a solid question. I have to say one of the hardest videos to make was the one on the commons, I think, because it was really hard to read governing the commons for me because it was kind of boring. Um, at least parts of it were pretty boring, kind of a drag to get through. So at the top of my head, I think that was the most difficult one. Um, I did like the commons video was one of the videos I'd planned on making since the beginning of my channel, and I put it off and put it off and put it off, and I'm kind of glad that I did, because when I eventually did make it, I think it's excellent. If you want videos about from an anarchist talking about Marxism Leninism, you should go and watch Anarch. I'm never gonna make a video about Marxism Leninism. Opinion on France. I wish France a very I can't say that. Um, I think France was the in a lot of ways is like the perfect model of the many manifestations of colonialism. You know, settler, not so much settler colonialism, but particularly internal colonialism, exploitation colonialism. Um, yeah. So, I mean, when I think about Atlas Altera talks about it in his in one of his videos, but just the way that France, um, the diverse languages that exist in France, how those were suppressed and continue to be suppressed to this day. Yeah, I think France needs to go. The Dawn of Everything is a good book. CARICOM Haiti, another topic that I need to cover later. Cricket is not the worst consequence to the British Empire, but it's up there. I wouldn't rag on my cricket fans, but maybe. Better mustache, Bookchin, or Apu? Apu by far. All respect to Bookchin, but Apu has it. Cats. Not a big cats fan. Not a big pets fan. I don't have anything against pets. It's just not my lifestyle. Haven't done any psilocybin or psychedelics. No. I think space exploration is an ethical dilemma because of the um, resource investment that it requires and the impact of those resources, the extraction of those resources on people and on this planet. So I do think that is an ethical dilemma that needs to be considered, you know. I think any use of resource is an ethical dilemma to some extent, right? Because you have to think about, like how you get those resources, who has to get those resources, how those resources are used, who benefits. All of those things have to be considered. They're not really considered under capitalism. You don't have to think about it under capitalism, but I think it's something that we should be thinking about constantly. Okay, not constantly. That'll be kind of a mess for one's mental health, but yeah. I used to have a Stoicism app, like from quotes from like Stoics when I was younger. Um, I think they have some solid stuff to share. Um, I'm gonna do a video on the gift economy in the future. How did I choose a shade of yellow? It was a gift from the gods. Thoughts on the Black Panther Party? Complex. It's not something that can be distilled in a few sentence response. Um, so I'll have to leave you at that, positive and negative. You know, I cannot bust foreign files. Talking about out of pocket jokes he put in his scripts. Why was I a saint? Because that's how I used to. That used to be my artist's label. So I just kind of ran with it for a while, and certain things and the way I started the channel. If I go back, I would have done differently. And I think that's one of the main things. Like I wouldn't have bothered with that name because it um doesn't reflect what I'm trying to do now. It was just like a title I'd come up with as a sort of an artist thing because at one point in time I wanted to be an art and fashion journalist, and so yeah, I was kind of inspired by some of those aesthetic Tumblr type names and just kind of ran with that. I wish they'd leave Guadeloupe, Martinique, Saint Martin, and French Guiana as well. Um, yeah, yeah. But anyway, thoughts on Unc Signifier's horrid attempt at a. He has tried a Trinidadian accent. I've never heard that. I don't remember hearing that before. Favorite music genre? It depends on how I'm. It depends on the day. Sometimes it's bossa nova. Sometimes it's hip hop. Sometimes it's jazz. It really depends. Favorite Graeber book? Death, the First 5,000 Years. It was the first Graeber book I read, and it's still my favorite. Seed libraries are cool. The worst consequence of the British Empire is we're all stuck with this language now. I am a big hobby linguist. That's how I describe myself. I like linguistics as like an idea. Um, I think there is we could fixate on the fact that languages have been lost, and that is sad. That is something to be mourned. But I think it's more productive to focus on the languages that we can still save, and to focus on the language on these colonial languages and how they can evolve, right? So what you'll notice in every post-colonial education system is that you have language arts, you have English class, whatever the case may be. You have this fixation on standardizing English. France and Spain have it much worse. Like they have a whole like institution dedicated to the preservation of the language. Forget that. All right. I think languages should evolve and flourish and change over time. That's what they did. We don't speak in Middle English today. We don't speak in Old English today. We don't speak in Proto Germanic today. You know, we speak all these different languages because language was allowed to evolve. But now all of a sudden we want to impose this very narrow restriction of how to speak. If I want to say reverse back, I could say reverse back. Yes, it's repetitive. Yes, it's redundant. Yes, how what? Well, you can reverse forward. No, but if I want to say reverse back, I will say reverse back. And that's just one really petty example that people like to come at me for. People in my personal life, that is. I'm not that I'm not a big fan of currencies, but I think there can be wiggle room for depending on how it's approached and applied. Least favorite day of the week? Hmm, I'm not sure. I try to, and all my days kind of end up blending together. How do I retain the information I learn and teach? I don't. I forget stuff, and then I end up having to rewatch my videos. Um, but the general idea is what's important. Like remembering the dates and names is not necessarily as important. What matters more is the idea. What matters more are the ideas. Yes, any resource management is an ethical problem. I think it won't be as bad if world governments unite diplomatically, manage resources for the benefit of all. Yeah, I don't believe the government's ever going to do that. And I'm an anarchist, so it's not in the cards for me. Opinion on the Nigerian election. Yeah. What was his name again? Peter Biel, I think was his name. He's basically Peter Biel, I think was his name. I could be wrong. What was the guy's name who ran for presidency in Nigeria? Um, Peter Obi, not Peter Biel, Peter Obi. Yeah, Peter Obi was cheated. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, Thanks for the congrats, FD. Much appreciated. I'm still saying it on Twitter, even though I'm not on there anymore. I do think the Caribbean should revive our Creole languages. Yes. Um, I think the idea of first languages. Mm, nah, I misinterpreted that. Yeah, I do think we should revive our Creole languages, but also I don't think we should fix it on the past. I think for those of us who have lost our Creoles, those being the French-based Creoles that we had, the ones that had a bit more African influence, um, I think we should try and incorporate those and bring those back and to preserve those, but also there are a lot of ways that our language is already evolving right now, and I think we should also focus on how those can evolve further. FD did the Trinidadian accent in front of T, as in T Noir. No way. No way.. I missed that live. Nah, man. I will talk to him. I will confront him about this. um, What do you think of anarcho-primitivism? I think it's misinformed. Yeah, the video on Marxism-Leninism from an anarchist point of view, just go on the YouTube channel Anarch. Thoughts on religion, again, something a bit more complex than I'm able to get into right now without falling drastically behind. Did I watch Juma? No. I have no idea what that is. I've heard the name in passing, but I'm not familiar with their stuff. I think elevating local vernaculars over standard English is important. I don't have an issue with having universal languages, or not universal languages, but languages that we can use for, cross-cultural, cross-ethnic, cross-national, cross-whatever communication. And having a level of standards that is important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look, for example, like Plains Sign, right, which is the sign language that was used by Native Americans, across North America to communicate, despite the fact that they spoke all these different languages. I think that's cool. I think we should have a linguistic version of that as well, not just a, sign-in version of that, hand version of that. But I do think people should have more respect for the ways that their local environment has taken their language and evolved it. Yeah, I wouldn't take Esperanto and use it as a standard. If I had to pick a language as a neutral auxiliary language, I think probably hand signs have a lot of potential. But there's so many of them already. There's not like there's one in particular. Yeah. So I don't know. What are the merits of creating solar punk art? Is it a waste of energy that could be spent on direct action? I don't see it as a tit for tat. I don't see it as like a simple what's the phrase I'm looking for? Ugh. I don't think it has to be either or, is what I'm saying. Art will always exist. Art has always existed. I don't think there's anything wrong with creating art. And even if we were to say, which is, it's not true because it does, but even if we were to say that it had no political merit, I'm seeing somebody spamming in the chat, so I'll do that just now. But yeah, even if we were to say that it had no political merit or practical merit, art for art's sake is still something to be respected. By the way, I did actually try learning Esperanto for a long time a couple years ago. So I did pick up some things. I don't remember most of it now, though. I do think the language monopoly should be decentralized. No. I wouldn't say R.I.P. French, Trinidadian Creole. It still exists. It still does exist. Goals or wishes for the future of the channel. I do intend to talk about that later. Yes, Twin Rabbit has an excellent video on hand talk. Twin Rabbit. Go on YouTube, type in Twin Rabbit, you'll get it. Esperanto is a cute language, though. I do agree. How physically active am I? I'm going to the gym tomorrow. I go to the gym about 3 times a week. Been going to the gym for a couple of years now, and yeah, I haven't tested my one rep maxes in a while. And I also play football on a Sunday. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Guys, I actually caught up. Excellent. Um, I feel like I could actually take a break. Take my eyes off the screen for 2 seconds. Let me jump in and deal with these spammers. When I think Trinidadian nature sounds, I think of the Kiskadee, first and foremost. I think of the Carib grackle, aka blackbirds. I think of the ground doves and their ooh ooh. Um, I think of the house gecko. I think of the howler monkeys. Um, yeah, I do garden. I spoke a bit about my garden earlier in the stream. How much do I want to nerd out and working out? Swartz area. Yeah. I I know somebody who's a much bigger fitness nerd than me. Like they have a whole spreadsheet and everything. Um, I just like the feeling that it gives. I like doing it regularly. I like benching. I'd say my two favorite exercises are the bench press and the overhead press. I love the overhead press. Love the overhead press. I'm overhead pressing right now, stretching out. Ah, yeah. Forbes Burnham is he's a real figure, boy. I did a bit of research on him recently for a project that I'm working on. Um, that I do intend to announce in this stream. It's just I haven't gotten a second to do it yet. All right, what I'm gonna do? Let's have a moratorium. No, moratorium is not the right word, is it? Yeah, yeah, it is moratorium. We're gonna embargo the chat. All right, we're not gonna embargo the chat. We're gonna like pause on questions for 2 seconds. Yeah, because I do need to breathe. Whew. I will try and answer the questions that were asked before the pause, though. Um, do I have a favorite video game? Look, I just saw a house gecko. Anyway, I have a few. I play a lot of the Paradox Grand Strategy games. I don't play Hearts of Iron 4 and I don't play Europa Universalis. I do play Crusader Kings 3 and I do play Victoria 3. And almost obsessively. Let's just say that. I also, I'm trying to finish the story of Mafia 3 right now. Really loving that story, even though it has some problematic elements. Um, and I am also, I like the entire Mafia series, really. I also, I sometimes play RimWorld, though it's been a while since I've played any RimWorld. Thoughts on Half-Life 3? Eh. I didn't play any of the Half-Life games. I played Portal, not Half-Life. Yeah, the ooh ooh that the common loon probably makes that sound, but we don't have common loons in Trinidad. Um, we have the common ground dove, but we don't have loons. How are you gonna celebrate after the stream ends? I don't know yet. I might take a nap. I don't know. By the way, for, regarding the sounds of Trinidad, I feel like y'all would have heard some of it because, um, like I don't know how much gets picked up on the mic, but the Kiskadees and the Blackbirds do not rest when I'm recording videos, so probably just blends into the background, feels like background music or whatever. But they are there. Favorite Ghibli film? I don't know. Probably Princess Mononoke. Haven't played The Last of Us, and have not watched the series. Have I ever been not as passionate about my interests and goals before? Yeah, it's a feeling, and it passed. Sometimes you just have to let it pass. That obviously can't apply to every situation, but yeah. Have not played Disco Elysium. It is on my list though. And I know there's no Half-Life 3. And yeah, I do know the universe of Half-Life 3, of Half-Life and Portal are shared. How did I learn video editing and audio mixing? So what I did was, after I downloaded Premiere Pro from the most legitimate sources, Adobe Premiere Pro, I proceeded to do the tutorial that they have baked into the program, and yeah. When it comes to Audacity, that took some trial and error, but I basically recorded it raw. I like highlight a portion of silence so I could pick up any background noise, and I use the noise reduction thing filtered over it, and that's about it. And then in Premiere Pro, I do slap on some filters just to like de-essers and a denoiser as well. But yeah, that's about it. And yes, that is it. Pause on questions. I want to drink some water. All right. I'm still maintaining the pause on questions because there are other things that I want to talk about in the live stream before we continue picking up with any more questions. For one, welcome to the live stream. I had like a whole structure planned, and then as soon as I jumped in, I just started answering questions. Answering questions was supposed to be the last thing I was doing in the video, in the streamer, but that's how things played out. No issues. I wanted to talk a bit about, how things started, right? How it all began. I think a lot of people already know I was originally like blogging, and blogging is kind of kind of dead. So I actually stopped blogging, and I decided to turn one of my blogs into a video. And yeah, I would like to make that video on education again, but I haven't yet. Because when I do redo that video, like I redid my video on human nature, there are a lot more things that I would want to cover within it. Maybe a lot longer and more in depth. And so that'll take some more time and a lot more research. A lot of changes came along the way on this road to 100K. For a long time, I was St. Andrew, and then it became St. Andrewism. Originally I just wanted to jump straight from St. Andrew to Andrewism, but I don't know, something in me was like, next thing you know, I changed it to Andrewism. People are like, who's Andrewism? I didn't subscribe to Andrewism. I subscribed to St. Andrew. Unsubscribe. So I was like, all right, let me hold off on it. Let me make it like a progressive change. I'll add the ism, then I'll drop the saint. And so eventually I jumped from St. Andrewism to Andrewism. So that's that. The reason I changed it is because I feel like it wasn't fitting what I was trying to do, and I was tired of explaining the background on it and why I created it. Now I should probably explain what Andrewism is. It is basically my ever-changing personal outlook on the world, incorporating everything from my personal philosophy, my political philosophy, everything, right? And so it's subject to change. It's not something that's rigid, not something that's baked into any one particular text as Bible. It just is what I believe at a point in time, and as my thoughts, my ideas change and evolve and grow, Andrewism will change and evolve and grow. Now, obviously, as I made that quite clear, I am an anarchist, and I do consider anarchism and the principles built into anarchism to be a core aspect of who I am, and of Andrewism. But that doesn't mean that I am a disciple of John Anarchy. Not that that's a thing, and what I respect with anarchists is the fact that they do tend to be heterogeneous. They do tend to be more flexible in their approach to politics and in their aims. We have certain principles, obviously, but there's room within that for a variety of interpretations and understandings and differences in opinion, and anarchists without adjectives and adjectives to anarchism and all these different things. So yeah, I dropped the St. Andrew because it didn't suit the channel anymore. I was tired of explaining that, no, I don't think that I'm God's gift to earth. I'm just a guy who had an artist's pseudonym, and that artist pseudonym I just used for my channel. But yeah, so that's the story of Andrewism. Another change that you might notice in the history of Andrewism, the channel, is that I changed the image, the graphic, the ism. I've been calling them isms, like the little cartoon graphics that I make for my patrons and that I have of myself in various expressions. I call them isms. And so the ism changed, right? The little graphic changed. Originally, it was like I went through a couple of different drafts. And in fact, let me reveal those drafts. Let's make this fun. Let's make this cool and interesting. I've just pulled that up. And by the way, I have not been watching the chat because, yeah. I am okay. There are some things that I do want to talk about. First, before we proceed with anything. Just pulling up the let's see. So these were the early drafts of my profile, right? I had some very rough early drafts of what I wanted the character to be like. For those who weren't there from the beginning, I didn't always have a graphic to represent myself. Um, but I wanted a graphic to represent myself because before when I was collecting art, I felt like I had to have like a very specific piece of art for every statement I was making in the script, and that was getting very tiring. So, um, eventually, yeah, I decided to try and draw something up. And so this one was the most like this one was like the rough kind of like yeah. And I had various variations, whether I wanted to have eyelids or not, whether I wanted the eyes to be filled in or not. And of course, as you'll notice in a lot of the earlier ones, my thick, juicy, beautiful lips are very much prominent. Um, Only thing is, I'm bad at drawing lips. And so, as a result, you know, I just felt like it looked a little goofy. Because, again, I feel like I'm bad at drawing lips. Um, Little shout out on the nose. I was I'd been drawing noses like this for a while, right? Um, like I've been drawing for a long time, and developing my style slowly. Of course, I'm no like genius expert level artist or anything, but I like drawing, and so I figured I'd make a little graphic, and so this is what I came up with. My hair was a lot shorter at the time. I was clean shaven at the time, which now has the kind of the effect of making it look as if like this was an adolescent. Like my earlier images look almost adolescentish now, right? Because eventually I did in fact update it, right? I went from the short hair and the clean shaven look to my longer twists. This short hair, by the way, was also supposed to be twists, but I wasn't as good as drawing twists at the time that I made it. So it kind of just looks like I have like 3A hair or something, or 3B or 3C. But you know, I think I got a little bit better at drawing the twists, so now I don't look as crazy. Um, the eyebrows, of course, stay the same. I do have these stunning, amazing eyebrows in real life as well. Thank you, thank you. And the ears in the Patreon drawings, like sometimes I read Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Awesome book, highly recommend indeed. But yeah, like in some of my Patreon drawings, I do have the little air squiggle. In other ones, I don't. It depends on how I'm feeling on the day, right? If you want a little ism, usually on Patreon sign up, I either draw their profile photo or I just draw like a general ism. But then they can always, request it be changed, and I would change it for them if they want to send a photo. I used to like ask them to send a photo, but it felt kind of awkward to do it. And so now I leave it as is. If somebody has their actual face as a profile photo, then I'll assume they're comfortable with me using that as the basis for the drawing, and if not, well, they're open to ask. Another thing, I didn't always have a Patreon. Eventually, I opened it, and it grew and stuff over time. And I also did not, yeah. What was I? Yeah, I didn't always have a Patreon, but one thing I didn't want to do, was I did not want to monetize the channel. In Trinidad, in my experience, at least on my devices, we don't get ads on YouTube. And I learned that you all get real ads on YouTube because I went to visit some family in the States, and I was just trying to watch my usual YouTube, and it's like every time you click on a new video, you get an opening ad, a mid-roll ad, an end of video ad, and it's irritating. It's annoying. I don't like it. I think it's really annoying. I almost went into the advertising field. I had jobs in, that field of media because bachelor's mass communication, that's what you're supposed to do. I chose not to because from a young age, I've hated ads, and I've hated the fact that ads just kind of dominate our lives. And even as I've become more anti-capitalist, I've become more against ads, and so I don't feel comfortable. And this isn't shade to other creators, because everybody has to do what they have to do, and I don't want you all to shade other creators as well. This is just my personal thing, and I have nothing against creators who put food on the table that way, and I don't think you all should either. It's just it's obviously it is. I mean, nobody really likes being advertised to, and so for me personally, I am not. I'm not. I don't tend to ever monetize. If you ever see an ad on my channel, then YouTube must have put it there because I don't monetize my channel. My channel's not monetized. It could be, but it's not. And I don't take sponsorships. If I ever were to take a sponsorship, it would literally have to be something for. It would literally have to be for something that I was already planning on promoting in some way. So like if it was like a course on permaculture design or something, then I would give it like a shout out or whatever at the end of a video or something, because I think that's important. I think that's an important skill to know. But yeah, I just am not comfortable with ads like that, and so that's why shout out to the patrons. This would not be possible without the patrons. I'm so grateful that I'm able to support myself and my family with the support of the patrons. So round of applause for the patrons. I did play No Man's Sky. The worst sport is there's that sport where you have to like basically sweep something. I can't remember what it's called, but I think that would be the worst sport to me. Golf is a close second though. Doing talks and lectures, I've received offers a few times, but either the timing just didn't work out for me, or I wasn't, comfortable with the situation surrounding the offer, or again, didn't have time. And yeah, I'm not against it, but I am cautious about it because, again, I don't want to be a public figure. Does YouTube promote unmonetized channels less? I've been told that. I've heard that. I've also heard people say no, that being monetized doesn't really have an effect. Not not something I'm focusing on either way. who it had to reach, and it will reach. Because I've also heard that people who are monetized, if multiple videos of theirs gets demonetized, they can end up having some issues like being blacklisted as well. Um, so yeah. Have I spoken to Second Thought after a shout out? No. Recommendations for beginner anarchist lit. Um, hmm. It's been a while since I've read any beginner anarchist literature. It's been a while since I've read any anarchist literature. I've been reading a lot of other stuff. Like my most recent read was Braden Sweetgrass. Um, so I'm not sure. I mean, my go-to is always telling people to read Anarchy or Anarchist Program by Malatesta. Um, Anarchist in the Black Revolution is also a good jumping off point. Yeah. What I mean, I don't get ads on YouTube. I mean, I go on YouTube and I watch videos and I never get ads. And every time I click on a video, I don't get ads. And when I watch through a video, I don't get interrupted by ads. And when the video is done, I don't get ads. When I go in the US and I click on a video, I get ads. During the video, I get ads. After the video, I get ads. So, yeah. That's the benefits of being in Trinidad, I guess. We don't get ads on YouTube. Yay. Among other things. Um, there was like a brief period where we were getting ads, but that ended. Like, we never got ads again. We haven't gotten ads since. But there was like a short period of time. Well, yeah, how could I forget? Anark, Anark, on YouTube does have a video where they talk about book recommendations for various topics. So yeah, check it out. Yeah, so my decolonization video is something that you can reference. I'm not mestizo, I'm not indigenous or Native American. My my decolonization video is one jumping off point you could look at. Another is a video that I have not put out yet that I've been working on, and that is on unearthing indigeneity. So, stay tuned for that. What else did I want to touch on? Ooh, I could have these cycle in the meantime while I'm talking. Give you all something interesting to look at. Just give me a second. Let me set it up. Christmas time is here. Time for joy and time for care. We've been good, but we can't last. Merry Christmas very fast. Want a plane that loops the loop. I want a hula hoop. We can hardly stand. But yeah, what was I talking about? Fresh banana leaves. I will add that to my list. I don't have a favorite novel. as a book reader, that is against the law. Columbus and Other Cannibals. Ooh. I gotta check that one out. Um, how does YouTube make money without ads? There isn't like a YouTube office in Trinidad, so I don't think they really care that much. Do I think a revolution inside the imperial core is possible? Watch my video on the social revolution. Yes, I did want to talk about the the West, not the East Indies Federation, the West Indies Federation. Um, yeah. So, continue along with some things that I wanted to cover, right? Um, I spoke about some of the style changes I made along the way. I used to like introduce some of my videos with like a short clip related to the video. But then I couldn't find a clip for a particular video, and so I didn't put one. And ever since then, I've stopped. Um, I've collaborated with a couple people along the way, so shout out to all of them. The interviews that I've done, the podcasts that I've been on. You can find some of those in a special playlist on the channel. Um, and oh yeah, of course, I wanted to thank my sponsors, my ads. I want to thank Anak, who was one of the first people. Well, I think the first person, one of the first people who ever shouted me out. He was bigger than me at the time, so you wanted to check out his channel. Shout out to Khadija, who shouted me out as well. Yeah, and that really helped with the come up. They just discovered one of my videos and were like, wow, that's amazing. They literally went live to talk about it. I found that to be really cool. I also want to talk about my plaque. I checked and they said it's supposed to take 10 days. But when I do get the plaque, I will let y'all know. I also want to talk about two things. Future plans and goals for the channel and in general, as well as my upcoming book. Ooh, a hush falls upon the crowd. It is supposed to be Kropotkin. Do I actually sit down and read books? Yeah. Thanks, Broken Mug. Appreciate it. Yes. Ooh, whoa, a book coming up. Yes. Um, yeah. Woof. 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 Ooh, I have to add one image to the slideshow though. Yeah. So I do have a book. The first draft is done. The second draft is done. The patrons, by the way, knew about it before you guys did. Just saying. And I've spoken about it in some of the patron live streams. So they've kind of been getting some updates here and there. Um, Let me just make sure, like, because I'm trying to I'm trying to like announce something, and I don't want people to think I'm ignoring them, even though I am. I just don't want to ignore them rudely. I want to ignore them with explanation. So yeah, um, I am making a book. The first draft is done. Second draft is done. Patrons knew about it already. Um, but before I talk about the book, I want to talk about other goals. So, I don't usually give a little shout out on what I'm working on, channel wise. I like to keep an air of mystery a little bit. You know, you never know what you're gonna get next, you know? But at least for this year, I mean, every year I've kind of had like a sense of what I want to talk about. Things shift here and there, but for this year at least, I plan on, I have a video, and I tend to be 1 to 2 months ahead on videos. So it just leaves a little bit of wiggle room in case I have like an emergency, you know, that I'm not behind or anything. But I have a video in pipeline on parenting. I have one on indigeneity. I also have one on demands and the purpose of demands in political movements. One really hefty video that I have that I've been scared to write for like a while, that I know is going to be like one of my most difficult videos to write, is a video on justice. And to be honest with you, I might make that into a 2-parter or 3-parter or even a series, because I feel as though it's such a difficult subject to broach and to engage with. And yeah, it's difficult to know where even to begin. I do have like an outline for it, but you know, still, you're always gonna feel like if it's incomplete. And I mean, all of my videos are technically incomplete, but my aim is to provide some level of introduction. And so that's the justice video. I want to talk about, the barter economy. I want to talk about buen vivir. I want to talk about very certain plants and their revolutionary potential. I want to talk about fair. I want to talk about fashion. I want to talk about. I want to continue my discussion that I started with the consensus video. I want to talk about the gift economy. I want to talk about Bolo Bolo. I want to talk about pirate democracy. I want to talk about quilombismo. There are a lot of subjects that I want to, hit on at some point. So, some of them within this year, others not. But we'll see. We'll see. The reason I put a pin when the person had made the questions about the New Jewel movement, about CARICOM and Haiti, and about the West Indies Federation, is because those are all topics that I touch on in my book. So like I was saying, I finished the drafts, like it's gonna publish this year. And before it publishes this year, it's still in the hands of some beta readers right now, and eventually is it alpha readers? I can't remember which terminology, but before it moves on to an editor, and I do not have a publishing house for it yet. I haven't actually figured out the publishing, because I'm thinking some hybrid of self-published and published through traditional means, because when it comes to distribution, I know that it's going to have some demand outside of the region. You should know, I'm not going to reveal the name of the book yet, because I don't know myself. I do have like an idea of what it's going to be called, but I won't reveal it yet, so stay tuned for that. The patrons, again, will hear it first. But the book, I'll give you all the working title. It's not the actual title, but it's the title of the draft. and that's the Maroon Project. Um, and it's essentially to give you all like an elevator pitch. It is a book about the Caribbean story, the Caribbean pathology, and Caribbean solutions for a Caribbean revolution. Now, for those of you who are not in the Caribbean, will be like, oh, well, what does that have to do with me, right? Um, this book was written primarily with a focus on a Caribbean audience, a young Caribbean audience. Um, because I really see the potential, the revolutionary potential of the next generation. Not to say that older people won't get it either, but that was my focus. But that doesn't mean that this book is not outside of the scope of um, others, outside of the scope of the region. While the focus is on the region, the issues that I talk about are international. The problems that I address are international. The solutions that I come up with are largely international. They draw from our revolutionary heritage. They draw from, the New Jewel movement, the revolutions throughout Caribbean history, the Maroons, which were a major inspiration for the book, the real launching point for how I even ended up writing the book. But the real thrust of the book is the people. It is the ideas that our people have come up with, but also people around the world have come up with. And so while the structure of the book is sort of Caribbean past, Caribbean present issues, and Caribbean future, as in solutions, it is something that I think anybody would gain a lot of power from, a lot of energy from, a lot of ideas from. My channel has sort of been the preamble to this book. A lot of what I talk about in the book, you would have seen me making videos on in the past couple months. And that's because they really informed a lot of the book. And yeah, that's really the thrust of it. I'll be right back. Somebody's out the door. Right, so I'm back. Um, AK Press is one publishing house I'm considering. I'm also considering Haymarket. I'm considering a few different places, so I'm not settled anyway. Um, will I join Mastodon so I can follow that? I'm trying to leave Twitter, so I'm already looking for another social media platform. I am on it, but I'm not on it. But any questions you might have on Caribbean history, on Caribbean politics, on Caribbean solutions, on reviving the West Indies Federation, on the New Jewel movement and its inspiration in the 1970 Black Power Revolution in Trinidad, or the Grenada Revolution. Um, Sorry, I'm mixing up the New Jewel movement with a couple other groups. My bad. New Jewel movement is in Grenada, but whether you want to talk about the 1970 Black Power Revolution, whether you want to talk about the New Jewel movement in Grenada, um, yeah, it really is something that I'm trying to tackle, something that I'm drawing from in an effort to make sense of our region and our current reality, and to really try and chart a course for the next few decades. The need for change is absolutely there in the Caribbean. Leaving Twitter, well, I'm leaving and I'm not leaving. I'm not deleting my account, but I'm largely logged out, and I only intend to use it really for um, channel promotion stuff. What's life like in the Caribbean? Well, it depends. Much like the rest of the world, life is life is largely dependent on your class position. A lot of different factors, right? A lot of different intersections. Um, it's hot. It rains a lot sometimes. It is. I think we have amazing cultures throughout the islands, within each island. Um, I think we have a lot of issues, and I talk about those issues in the book. But we have a lot of issues, and I think I have a sense of how those can be dealt with. And that's really the purpose of the book. I do intend to wrap up within the next 10-15 minutes. But yeah, channel wise, that's what's going on. Got some interesting videos in the pipeline. Book wise, stay tuned for announcements for the cover, for the title, for the release date, the release platforms, ebook and physical. My intent is really to get it distributed easily and accessibly throughout the region, first and foremost. In Trinidad, in Trinidad and Tobago, throughout the Caribbean, I want it to be accessible, because a lot of radical literature is not sold physically here, so a lot of people just aren't exposed to it. The bookstores, it's already a lot to ship things in to an island, and so bookstores tend to sell where the demand is, and so the demand is on things like textbooks and on I went to the bookstore today and I saw some Colleen Hoover books, and well, you have your usual, you have your Hardy Boys, you have your Nancy Drew, you have your Hunger Games, you have the typical books are there, cookbooks, etc. The things most people use, right? radical literature, not only is there much of a demand for it, well, I wouldn't say that. I think there is a demand for it. I think there is a thirst for it. But it's also like, why would you, as a capitalist bookstore owner, bring in that sort of material? Not to say that there isn't such material in bookstores, because there is, just there isn't enough, in my opinion. And I think that there needs to be more exposure to these ideas. Even in libraries, it's going to be difficult to find even basic works of Marx and that kind of thing. So, yeah. I mean, the only things you might find, a lot of is like history books on like the Soviet Union or whatever. But you're not going to find anarchist literature. You're not going to find stuff on social ecology. And so I've condensed a lot of information into this book, and I want that information to be accessible. I want this book to be a jumping off point for further research, for further exploration, for further organizing, for further discussion, for further... the national conversation, the regional conversation needs to be pushed forward, and that's what I'm hoping this book can do. And so my focus is on publishing regionally, but also, of course, I want it to be accessible internationally, via ebooks and physically, so that everyone could get a chance to have access to it, because I do think it has potential beyond just the region, but also internationally. And furthermore, I do want it to be, I do want to have like an audiobook recording of it at some point, so it's, it's fully accessible. Eventually, maybe even translations. I would, of course, have to work with an author on those translations, because some colloquialisms that are used may not be understood in other languages. I might later on have extended editions, because, and I'm going to get right in front of this criticism, a lot of the focus in the video is on English-speaking Caribbean history. I do talk about the Haitian Revolution, of course. I do talk about the Maroons in Suriname. But a lot of the focus is on English-speaking Caribbean history, because, we don't... I feel like we needed something that's addressed to us. But I do want the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, the French-speaking Caribbean, the Dutch-speaking Caribbean to also have access to this material in the future as well. And so a lot of things in the works... long-term future stuff in the works as well. I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. I want to say thanks for helping me to reach 100K, to have, this influence, and to be able to share these ideas and help to inspire others' imagination. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for 100K. Thank you for making all this possible. I can't wait for you all to read the book. The aim of the book is indeed to inform and hopefully help create organizations that abide by libertarian and anarchist principles across the Caribbean. Thing is, I think we already have grassroots movements that just need a bit of a clearer sense of direction. They know where they want to be. They have ideas that I share, but I don't think, especially when a lot of, like in Trinidad at least, there's a lot of stupid ethnic politics and the party politics. In other Caribbean countries, there are just a lot of useless jibber jabber party politics that especially the younger generation sees as a waste of time. And I want them to know that politics is not just within the electoral realm. That you don't have to give up just because you're tired of these old fogies running government and not getting anything done. I want to show people that there's another way, which is what I've been doing on this channel. Showing people that there's another way, and that's what the book is about. Haven't told y'all when it's coming out yet. I will let y'all know when. And will I read the audiobook? I don't know if I'll read the audiobook though. That's the thing. I might my original plan was to create an app for the book, and I wanted to get like voice actors, or voice actors from across the Caribbean, so you get a good sprinkle of the region. And yeah, so again, thank you all. And yeah, Trinidad history is not, and Caribbean history is not, I think, told well. That's to be expected for a young country. I think there was a lot of effort at nation building. You know, that sort of post-colonial, or yeah, post-colonial nationalism, and that of course has its flaws. I don't feel like the way that history is taught in general is well taught, and I think that there's a lot of radical history that gets left out. That's all I have for y'all tonight. I have monthly live streams with my Patreon subs. Fireball, I think we've spoken on Twitter before. So you can hit me on there and we'll talk from there. But yeah, so I have like my monthly Patreon live streams exclusive to patrons. If you want to join those, you can check those out. I do intend to occasionally have public live streams as well. There's some people that I'd like to interview. And when those interviews do occur, you guys will see them. Yeah, that's it. That's me wrapping it up there. 100K. Thank you very much. All the best to you all in all of your endeavors. All power to all the people. Good night. Peace.